If your family ever fed itself off its own ground, and you couldn't grow a week of dinners today to save your life, sit down, neighbor. I need you to hear this. There are 14 plants still working, still feeding whoever remembers to plant them, that the nurseries quit selling and the grocery quit stocking. They are worth more than gold. Gold gets spent. These plants just keep feeding you. In the winter of 1934, a widow named Ida Blackwood carried her family through a Kentucky cold snap on what she had already pulled out of the ground. 6 children, 1 cellar, a row of parsnips left in the dirt to sweeten under the frost, a crock of shelled cornfield beans she had saved off her own vines 3 summers running, a bed of skirret her mother-in-law had given her as a wedding gift, still throwing roots 20 years on. There was no grocery run that January. There was no seed order for spring. Everything she needed to eat and everything she needed to plant was already on the place. Today, most of us couldn't put a week of dinners on the table if the produce truck missed a Monday delivery. We buy the seed. We buy the sweetener. We buy the greens and the roots and the beans that used to grow themselves out behind the smokehouse. But here's the twist, friend. The plants Ida had in that cellar aren't gone. They are still out there. The nurseries just quit selling them. The grocery just quit stocking them. And the seed racks quietly replaced them with something you have to buy every single spring for the rest of your life. Some of what I'm about to count down, the seed companies made it their business to get off the shelf. Number 6, they patented the replacement in 1970 so you would rent your seed forever. Number 3, the United States Department of Agriculture is still catching back up to it 54 years after they replaced it, still writing papers on a corn most folks have never eaten. And number 12, there is barely a patch of it left growing anywhere in this country, and it used to feed whole villages. I'm not getting to that one until we are near the bottom of this list. None of these plants faded because they quit working. They faded because somebody sells you what they used to give you free. That is not on you, neighbor. They are good at making you need them. Before we go on, there's something coming for this country, and the news won't say a word about it till it's already on your doorstep. It comes down to one number, 3 days. That's what the stores hold for you. My grandfather Eli's pantry held a winter, and the difference was never money, it was knowing. I'm Silas Mercer, 7th generation on this ridge, and before Eli died, he made me swear that knowing wouldn't die with me. So I set it down, 904 pages of it in one book, silasmercer.shop, links below. All right, back to it. Number 14 is a root your great-great-grandmother probably grew, and your grocery store has never sold you. It is called skirret. Seum cisarum, a cluster of long, pencil-thin sweet roots off one crown, and one crown makes another one every fall, forever. Eli grew a patch of it against the north wall of the smokehouse where nothing else wanted to sit. You dug the crowns, ate the sweet inner roots, and replanted the little side crowns. One time, then never again. Free root vegetable for life. What it kills is the winter carrot bill, and it kills it without a single seed packet after year 1. A store carrot in February runs you $2, maybe $3 a pound, depending on the week. Skirret sits in the ground and sweetens up in the cold, same as a parsnip does. They didn't outlaw it, it just didn't fit a grocery shelf. Skirret roots come out in a clumpy fistful, not a clean tapered carrot, and the produce industry that took over American vegetable retail after the Second World War wanted uniformity, wanted machine harvest, wanted a shape a bag could hold. So the nurseries quit stocking it. One old English root gone from the American dooryard inside a generation. Divide the crowns in fall, loose soil, water, that is all. Skirret asks nothing. Skirret gives forever. Number 13 grows so hard it scares people. Comfrey. Bocking 14, the sterile cultivar, because you want the one that stays where you put it. A single root cutting the size of your thumb turns into a plant the size of a laundry basket in one season, and you cut it back 3-4 times a year. Every cutting goes on the compost, on the mulch pile, or straight down as sheet mulch under a fruit tree. Eli called it the poor man's fertilizer, wrote it into the journal in '54 with a little sketch of the taproot going down 6 feet. What it kills is your bagged fertilizer bill and your bagged mulch bill in the same swing. A comfrey plant mines potassium and nitrogen out of subsoil most garden roots never reach and hands it back to you as leaf over and over all summer. The lawn chemical industry didn't need it dead. They just needed you buying the bag. Post-war fertilizer marketing spent 40 years teaching every American homeowner that soil comes in a plastic sack from a store. A perennial that fertilizes your garden for free out of thin air was bad for that arithmetic. Plant it where you want it forever, because that is how long it stays. Cut it hard. Feed the beds with it. Never buy another bag. Now this next one, Ida Blackwood herself dug out of a creek bank. Number 12 is the one I told you was almost gone. Groundnut. Apios americana, a native climbing vine with a string of protein-rich tubers hung along a runner underground like beads on a necklace, and the Powhatan taught it to the Pilgrims in 1620 because it kept them alive through their first winter. Eli's father dug them out of the bottomland along the creek before the Second World War, and Eli remembered eating them roasted in ashes. What it kills is a bill most folks don't even know they are paying. A tuber crop that fixes its own nitrogen, climbs a fence you already own, and stores for months in a cellar. You never plant it twice. Once it is in, it is in. Nobody patented groundnut. Nobody banned it. It just quietly lost the fight to the potato because the potato dug easier and the grocery chain standardized around it. A crop the store can't shelve is a crop the store won't sell you. And a crop the store won't sell you is a crop you slowly forget your grandparents grew. Plant tubers along a fence. Wait through year 2. Harvest year 3. That is the whole method. It will be there when you are gone. First pattern break, friend. Here's where it stops being quaint and starts being the reason the grocery store's produce department stays in business. Every plant from here down you plant one time and it feeds you for 20 years. That is not a garden. That is a bill you stop paying. Number 11 isn't one plant. It is the whole idea of a perennial edible bed. Asparagus, rhubarb, sorrel. A trench of asparagus crowns dug 8 inches deep in loose soil throws spears every April for 2 decades running, and a well-set rhubarb crown will outlive the man who planted it. Ida Blackwood's rhubarb, the one her mother-in-law gave her, was still producing when her granddaughter inherited the place. What it kills is a spring produce bill of $4, maybe $5 a pound for asparagus that traveled 2,000 miles to reach you tired. Your own bed hands you a paper grocery sack full for the price of nothing. The nurseries didn't kill this. The grocery chains just made you forget that vegetables ever came from the same spot twice. Everything on their shelf is annual. Everything is replanted. Everything you buy today, you have to buy again next April. A 20-year asparagus bed is a 20-year unsold produce sale. 8-inch trench, crowns in. Cover slow. Cut the first spears in year 3. Then feed a family off it until you are old. Number 10 is a bean that eats sunlight and pulls its own fertilizer out of the air. Cowpea, southern pea, black eye, crowder, whippoorwill, pink-eye purple hull. Eli grew whippoorwills between the corn rows in July when the ground was too hot for anything else, and wrote in the journal in '46 that they fed the hogs, fed the family, fed the ground for next year's corn. One crop, 3 jobs. What it kills is the bagged fertilizer bill and half the summer grocery bill together. University of Nebraska Extension guidance says legume cover crops can hand plant-available nitrogen back to the soil at rates up to 150 pounds an acre. That is fertilizer the synthetic nitrogen industry sells you in 50-pound sacks and Cowpea pulls out of the sky for free. Now the honest note. Cowpea needs the right inoculant on the seed the first time you plant it, and it needs hot weather to do its best work. In a cold summer, it will sulk. That is the trade. Nobody outlawed cowpea. The synthetic fertilizer industry that boomed after 1945 just made a bag of nitrogen cheap enough that a farmer quit rotating legumes. And a generation later, most Americans have never eaten a fresh Crowder pea. Sow after last frost. Inoculate the seed. Pick green or leave it to dry. Free nitrogen. Free protein. 1 seed packet. Number 9 tastes like oysters and comes out of the ground looking like a dirty gray stick, and that is exactly why the grocery store won't touch it. Salsify, oyster plant, Tragopogon porifolius. Eli's mother grew a row of it every year and creamed it up in winter when there wasn't much else white on the plate. The journal entry from '38 says, sowed salsify Good Friday, thinned it St. John's Day, dug through the snow. That was the calendar. What it kills is a winter vegetable bill for something you literally cannot buy at most stores. A pound of salsify at a specialty grocer, if you can find it at all, runs $7, $8. A packet of seed runs $2 and feeds you for a season, and you can save your own for next year off the second-year flour. Grocery chains standardized around vegetables that ship in a truck and sit on a shelf and look like the picture on a bag. A dirty gray stick that has to be scrubbed and peeled and cooked the day you dig it doesn't sell. So the seed racks trimmed it, so the market forgot. Sow the seed in loose, deep soil in early spring. Leave the roots in the ground. Dig through the winter as you need them. Cold sweetens it. Frost improves it. Store carrots, wish. Number 8 is a plant that grows for one job and one job only, and that job is to make everything you grow next year better. Crimson clover, hairy vetch, Austrian winter pea. Sown over your garden in late summer after the tomatoes come out, allowed to blanket the ground through fall and winter, then cut down and turned under in April before you plant. Oregon State Extension puts the nitrogen contribution at 100 to 150 pounds an acre from a legume cover crop, terminated at bud or early bloom. That is a bag of fertilizer the seed sows itself out of the sky. What it kills is the bagged nitrogen bill, and it kills the weed pressure that eats a home garden alive by June, and it kills the soil erosion that carries your topsoil into the ditch every February rain. 3 bills, 1 packet. Second pattern break. Notice something? These plants don't just feed you, they feed each other. They feed the ground. Everything from here down is a plant that pays a bill you didn't know you were paying. And the fertilizer industry, the seed industry, the grocery industry, they all needed you to forget how these things fit together. Broadcast the seed at the right rate on prepared soil. Rake it in shallow. Water once if it is dry. Cut it down in spring before it sets seed. Turn under. Wait 2 weeks. Plant. That is a fertilizer plant. Rotating. Number 7 is a hedge that feeds you instead of a hedge you have to mow. Aronia, elderberry, currant, gooseberry, bush and small tree fruits that grow into a living fence around the yard, throw pounds and pounds of fruit every summer, and ask almost nothing after year 3. Eli lined the north fence of the garden with elderberry because deer wouldn't touch it, and the fruit came off in dark, heavy clusters he would cook down into jelly. What it kills is the entire summer soft fruit budget from the produce aisle. A pint of elderberries at a health food store runs you $8, maybe $9 now. A single mature elderberry bush hands you 15-20 pounds of fruit a year and lives for 30. Now here's the sting. Every American subdivision built after 1955 planted ornamental hedges instead of edible ones. Privet, boxwood, burning bush. Nurseries made better money selling a hedge you have to trim 4 times a summer than a hedge that feeds you. So the American yard has miles of shrubs that could have been food and are not. Take cuttings in late winter, stick them in the ground, water the first season, pick fruit in year 3. That is the entire method. A hedgerow of 6 elderberries kills your jelly bill for the rest of your life and hands the surplus to the birds who eat the bugs off your garden. The store never wanted you to plant a food fence. Number 6 is the one I told you about, the one they patented the replacement for. The old cornfield bean is a pole bean that climbs a stalk of corn instead of asking you for a trellis, and every seed in every pod comes true to type the next year, which means you buy the packet exactly 1 time in your entire life. Turkey craw, Cherokee Trail of Tears, greasy grits, genuine varieties still alive in the seed-saving networks and the mountain gardens, some of them carried out of the Southeast in the 1830s. Eli grew Cherokee Trail of Tears every year, and the journal entry from '61 says he was still eating off seed his mother had saved. What it kills is the seed packet bill, forever, and the bagged dry bean bill on top of it. 1 packet, seed for life. I will tell you straight, first year I saved bean seed alone after Eli was already gone. I let a couple of my varieties cross-pollinate because I planted them 10 feet apart instead of a proper distance. Whole season of seed, muddled. Eli would have caught it in April. I caught it 2 Julys later when the pods came out wrong. It happens. You learn. Then in 1970, on December 24th, Congress passed the Plant Variety Protection Act, giving the commercial seed industry patent-like control over new varieties. In 1994, they amended it and killed the farmer-to-farmer sales exemption. A seed you only ever buy once was bad for a business built on you buying it every spring. They didn't outlaw the old beans, they just made the new ones illegal to save. 1 packet, friend, 1 row, seed forever. Number 5 is a cabbage that stores from November to March in a cool cellar, without a refrigerator and without a can. Danish ballhead, January king, Brunswick. Storage varieties bred over centuries to sit tight and dense and hold their moisture through a cold winter. Michigan State Extension notes that root cellars did this work extensively before large-scale food distribution and supermarkets took over the year-round produce trade. Third pattern break. Everything I have counted down from 14 to here is a plant your great-grandmother knew and your grocery store hopes you don't. Now watch the last 4 items. Every one of them is a cornerstone crop that used to sit at the center of a homestead year, and every one of them the store now sells you back at a markup. Sow the seed in early July for a fall harvest. Cut the heads in October, pull the outer leaves back, Hang them upside down in a cool cellar or bed them in straw in a box. Root crop conditions: 32 to 40 degrees, high humidity per Missouri extension. What it kills is 4 months of a winter produce bill. A store cabbage in February is $1.50 a pound, and a head of Danish ball head out of your own cellar cost you the price of a seed packet in July. Supermarket logistics made this quaint. A cellar makes it dinner. Number 4 is the plant that used to sweeten every southern kitchen in the country before the sugar industry took the shelf. Sweet sorghum, sorghum bicolor. Cut the cane in September when the seed head goes brown. Run it through a squeeze mill, boil the juice down slow in a wide pan, and you have a gallon of dark syrup out of a patch of ground the size of a garage. Eli's father made sorghum every fall until 49 and traded it with neighbors for hog quarters and cornmeal. What it kills is the bottled sweetener bill for a whole year. A gallon of real sorghum syrup at a specialty store now runs you $40 easy. 1/10 of an acre and a weekend of boiling hand you that gallon and then some. The sugar and corn syrup industries didn't ban sorghum. They just outbid it on the grocery shelf and outspent it on the advertising page after 1945, and a farm crop that used to feed a family's whole sweet tooth quietly disappeared from American kitchens inside 2 generations. Honest note: the boiling is real work. The pan wants watching. Burn a batch, waste a patch. That is the trade. But a gallon of sorghum in the pantry is a year of sweetness you never bought. Number 3 is the one the United States Department of Agriculture is still studying 54 years later. Open-pollinated field corn. Hickory King, Bloody Butcher, Tennessee Red Cob, Old Dent and Flint varieties that grew in this country before hybrid seed showed up in the 1930s, and that Eli's father grew right up until the county agent came out in '55 with a bag of hybrid and told him he was wasting his ground. The United States Department of Agriculture Agricultural Research Service published a characterization paper in 2024 on southeastern open-pollinated maize land races. 54 years after the seed industry walked away from them, the government is still writing papers on their genetics. The old ground was still valuable. Somebody just made sure it wasn't stocked. What it kills is the seed corn bill, and the ground corn bill, and the cornmeal bill. Save your own seed off the best ears every fall. Isolate the patch by distance or by timing so it doesn't cross with a neighbor's hybrid. Grind at home. Eat all year. Hybrid corn showed up on farms in the early 20th century per the United States Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service history, and the seed industry sold it hard because a hybrid does not come true from saved seed. You have to buy it again every single spring. That is not a conspiracy, that is arithmetic. There was no money in a corn you only bought once. Real varieties still alive. Real ears in seed-saving networks. Real cornbread. Grind it yourself. Number 2 is the sweetest root you can pull out of the ground, and it costs you a seed packet and a winter of doing nothing. Hollow-crowned parsnip, an old English variety, still available, still true from seed. Sow in early spring, in loose soil, in a bed you can leave alone. Do not dig it in fall. Do not touch it. Let 2 hard frosts hit it. The cold turns the starches to sugar, and what you pull in January eats like candy. Missouri Extension guidance on root crop storage puts the winter parameters at 32 to 40 degrees and high humidity, and a parsnip left in the ground meets both those numbers by itself. The ground is the cellar. That is the whole trick. Ida Blackwood, the widow in 1934 Kentucky, had a row of parsnips left in the dirt on purpose. It was calculated. It was inheritance. It was the difference between a family that ate in January and a family that hoped. Store parsnips in winter run $3, maybe $4 a pound, if you can find them at all. Your own row costs you a packet and a spring afternoon. Sow shallow. Water once. Forget the row until January. Then dig your candy. The frost does the work. Number 1 isn't a plant. Number 1 is what every plant on this list is quietly pointing at. Number 1 is a dooryard where you don't buy the seed, you save it. Where you don't buy the fertilizer, you grow it. Where you don't buy the winter produce, you cellar it. Where the hedge is food and the fence is climbing beans and the north wall of the smokehouse is a patch of skirret and the widow next door drops off rhubarb crowns as a wedding gift because that is what her mother-in-law did. Number 1 is a self-fed yard, beholden to no seed rack, no produce truck, no fertilizer bag, no chain grocery store. Ida Blackwood, the widow in Kentucky in 1934, wasn't poor, friend. She was fed. She was fed off ground her husband's people had been feeding themselves off since the 1830s, and when he was gone, that ground fed his children through the worst winter of their lives. That is the plant worth more than gold. Not any one of the 14, the whole living arrangement of them working together, on your ground, in your name. Ida's granddaughter inherited the rhubarb bed. She inherited the parsnip row. She inherited the skirret crowns. Gold gets spent. A dooryard planted right is spent every year, and there is still more of it next spring. That is the inheritance. That is worth more than gold. Now hear me out on this. I am not selling you fear, and I am not selling you a bunker. This isn't collapse talk. This is a garden. Some of what I have counted down asks patience. Asparagus in year 3, groundnut in year 3, an elderberry hedge that isn't much to look at until it is. And I will be straight with you about the legal side, too. Nothing on this list is banned. The plants are all real, all available in seed-saving networks or heritage nurseries, all workable on a normal piece of ground. So pick one. Just one. Not 14. One. Sow a packet of Cherokee Trail of Tears beans this spring next to a row of open-pollinated corn and save the seed in September. Or set 3 Comfrey crowns in the corner of the yard where nothing else grows and cut them for mulch all summer. Or trench in 6 asparagus crowns this April and eat off that bed for 20 years. Start with the one that lands on you hardest and let it teach you the next one. I have done every one of these on this ridge, friend. The bean I told you about, the Cherokee Trail of Tears, I have saved off my own vines for 22 years running now, off seed Eli's mother saved before that. Never bought the packet again. Never will. Tell me down below, which of the 14 did your grandparents grow? What did your people keep that nobody keeps anymore? The one that gets the most comments is the one I build next. Your granddad grew every one of these. Somebody just didn't get the chance to pass it down to you. Now it is yours again. Don't let it die with you a second time. Next time, I am counting down the barnyard animals that fed a depression family off scraps and yard bugs and asked nothing but shelter in return. The old dual-purpose hen that laid a winter of eggs on kitchen scraps. The milk cow bred to eat grass instead of a $50 bag of feed. The pig breed that finished on acorns before the confinement industry decided a pig had to eat corn out of a trough. Every one of them still alive, most of them almost gone. All of them the reason the feed store had to invent a bird that couldn't feed herself. If you are new here, stick around. There's a whole homestead's worth of knowing left to pass on, and one old man at a time is how it gets lost. Keep the old ways. They kept